It is a particularly powerful Shabbat in that we conclude the entire book of Vayikra Leviticus. We read two portions of the Shabbat, Behar and Bechukotai. And as we do every occasion that we conclude a book of the Torah, the entire community calls out with gusto in unison, Chazak, Chazak, Venit Chazak, strength, strength, let us take strength, because whenever we conclude something in our life and we're about to initiate the next program, the next step, we need to found newfound strength, new power, so that we confront the future with confidence, with power, with strength. This Shabbat, one of the details that is mentioned relates to fraud. If you're buying and selling from your friend, do not defraud another human being. 2 verses later it says, do not cause fraud, you will fear God. Why the repetition? We know that being honest is so important, and we should not cause another person financial harm. But why repeat it 2 verses apart? So the Midrash tells us the first time relates to actual fraud, in the sense that you are stealing from another human being. You promise them 5, you only give them 4. You are shortchanging another human being. It is literally stealing. Do not defraud another human being. The next time it mentions it, 2 verses later, says the Midrash, relates to a much more subtle type of fraud. It relates to advice that you give another human being that is not in their best interest. You tell somebody to do something and you have your own agenda that is not thinking about the next person's benefit. And here it says, and you will fear God, because human beings don't know what's going through your mind. When you are saying what you're saying, what is your intention? Nobody else knows. So this time around it says, you will fear God, because God knows exactly what you're thinking. God knows why you're saying what you're saying. Do not give advice or say something to another human being that could cause them financial harm. It is a subtle type of fraud, and God knows exactly what you're doing. But beyond these 2 legal aspects of fraud, Rebunim of Pshisk, one of the great Hasidic Rebbes, says that there is a prohibition here about defrauding ourselves. We should not cause fraud to our own being. We should not act in a way of self-deception. Sometimes we believe we're stronger than we really are. Sometimes we convince ourselves that we've made decisions. We haven't really made that decision. We've got a whole program in how to lose weight, or how to stop an addiction, or how to go ahead in a way that we're so committed, but we don't really have the inner reserves and the resources to fulfill it. We tell ourselves again and again it's under control, but it's not. Sometimes we act more pious than we really are. And not only are we deceiving the people around us, but we're deceiving ourselves, which is inherent, which is at the core, which is the source of all the fraud that's going on. Every night before we go to sleep, we say the Shema, we proclaim our faith in God, and we have a prayer that allows us to think through the day and say, where am I? What is my standing? What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What am I going to address tomorrow? How am I going to grow? We need to be honest with ourselves, ruthlessly honest, to be able to know our weaknesses, as well as knowing the strengths that we need to further develop. So when we talk about fraud, we should, God forbid, never defraud another human being. But it needs to begin at the core, in ourselves. We need to be honest with ourselves. We need to know ourselves. We need to respect ourselves and address every issue in our life with honesty, with strength.